Good morning and welcome to the 2018 Warren County Board of Supervisors Organization Meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Supervisor Leggett.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now call the roll. Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond? Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer?
Here.
Mr. Loeb?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Sokol?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde?
Here.
Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Okay, it's now time for all of our re-elected and newly elected supervisors to subscribe to the constitutional oath as administered by Pam Vogel, Warren County Clerk. Would you all please rise?
Good morning. Please state the name as we go through the oath.
I.
Do
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
The Constitution of the State of New York.
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
And that I will faithfully discharge my duties
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
as a member of the Warren County Board of Supervisors.
as a member of the Warren County Board of Supervisors,
According to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam.
Okay, the first order of business is the selection of a temporary chairperson. Are there any nominations? Mr. Merlino?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Dickinson as temporary chair of the meeting.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd like to second that, please.
Are there any other nominations from the floor? Ms. Freeman?
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Supervisor Frazier for temporary chairperson.
Are there any other seconds to that nomination?
Second that.
Mr. Lowe? Are there any other nominations? All right. We'll now vote on the temporary chair. As we go around the room, would you please just state whether you're voting for Mr. Dickinson or Mrs. Frazier? You're starting with Leggett? Okay. Okay. Mr. Leggett?
Dickinson.
Mr. McDevitt?
Mrs. Frazier.
Ms. Bramer?
Mrs. Frazier.
Mr. Loeb?
Mr. Frazier.
Mrs. Frazier?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Simpson?
Mr. Dickinson.
Ms. Hogan?
Mr. Dickinson.
Hey, put me on the spot here.
Mr. Dickinson?
I'm going to vote for myself.
Mr. Merlino?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Stroud?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Beatty?
Mrs. Frazier.
Mr. McGowan?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Sokol?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Dickerson.
Ms. Hyde?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Garrity?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Conover?
Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Dickinson will be our temporary chair. Supervisors Frazier and Garrity, would you please escort Mr. Dickinson to the chair?
Congratulations, Dennis. Casey, Dennis?
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. As the temporary chair, I'm going to open up the floor for nominations for chairman for the board. Supervisor Simpson?
I'd like to nominate Supervisor Conover as permanent chair.
Is there- All right, thank you. Any others?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we nominations be closed, and the clerk cast the ballot for Supervisor Conover as permanent chair.
I'll second that motion. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Point of order, please. I would like to make a nomination, and my hand was raised prior to that motion being made.
Okay. Which takes precedent. Okay. Not a problem?
Thank you.
Supervisor?
I do have a
Wisniewski?
nomination for permanent chair.
Okay.
Because I want leadership who will embrace thoughtful and meaningful debate and encourage independent thought process. I'm confident that Supervisor McDevitt will lead the county forward with fairness and transparency. And if you want that as well, I encourage you and sincerely ask you to support Supervisor McDevitt, the chairman. The members of this board should no longer take for granted that decisions by a few will be rubber stamped by the entire board. It's time for us as a county to embrace meaningful debate and discourse by the entire Board of Supervisors, and I believe Mr. McDevitt can lead us into that era. If I do have a second for my nomination for Supervisor McDevitt, I ask that we have discussion on this and that we hear from the nominees before voting on the chairmanship. Thank you.
The chair has tolerated your little diatribe. This is something that's required by this meeting.
I object to that. The use of the word diatribe when someone wants to have free expression in this body. I object to it.
Go ahead. You've objected. Duly noted. We are here to appoint a chair. We are not going to spend a great amount of time discussing candidates and their qualifications. You've nominated Peter, which is fine. I need a second. Mr. Loeb. So we have two candidates. I will call the question if there are no further nominations. And I'll have the clerk do a roll call vote, if you would, please.
Mr. Conover? Mr. Leggett?
Conover.
Mr. McDevitt?
McDevitt.
Ms. Bramer?
Mr. McDevitt.
Mr. Loeb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, this is actually a pretty special moment for Warren County. Through us, the citizens of Warren County have a choice. And it's a special thing when you consider the state of the world, not only its history, but the state of the world today, that our chair, whoever it shall be, will not have been anointed. Peter McDevitt will make a great chair of the Board of Supervisors, but should Ron Conover prevail, he's done a great job so far, and I'm totally confident that he would continue to do a great job with the citizens of Warren County. So with that in mind, it'll be a fair fight, short but valiant, and I'm proudly going to cast my ballot for Peter McDevitt.
Mrs. Frazier?
Mr. Conover.
Mr. Simpson?
Mr. Conover.
Ms. Hogan?
Mr. McDevitt.
Mr. Dickinson?
Conover.
Mr. Merlino?
Conover.
Mr. Strauss?
McDevitt.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Conover.
Mr. Beatty?
The one thing that I feel is the most important foundation of this whole board is independence and full and open transparency on all information issues. I've unfortunately been disappointed time and time and time again over 4 years. In that light, as much as I've supported past Mr. Conover and Mr. Garrity, this disappointment has led me to insist upon a new direction. And the independence I feel that Mr. McDevitt will provide will be the direction that I feel will be best for this board. And I wholeheartedly would like to see other people feel that independence should carry the day. So I will be voting for Mr. McDevitt.
Mr. McGowan?
Mr. Conover.
Mr. Sokol?
Mr. Conover.
Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Conover.
Ms. Hyde? Conover. Mr. Garrity?
Mr. Conover.
Mr. Conover has won the vote with a vote of 570 votes in favor.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your participation. It is going to be my privilege to introduce Chairman Conover. Before I do relinquish this chair, which I do readily and willingly, I'd like to say a few words about my friend Ron. My original speech was 8 pages long. I took out all the faults that I had slapped on Ron and pared it down to 2 pages. So you're going to get the 2-page version. First, we are extremely fortunate to have Ron as our chair. The demands of being a town supervisor are unending. And yet Ron finds the time for both Warren County and for all of us. He answers your call when you call him. If you want a meeting, he makes one. If you have an idea or a proposal, no matter how wild, he'll listen to you. I know firsthand the time necessary to do this job. You've given up your evenings, weekends, holidays. All of these are time away from family and friends. Ron has received many citations and accolades. He is the recipient of the prestigious James Corbett Award for the work he's done in protecting the waters of Lake George. He received the second Corbett Award as supervisor of the town of Bolton for his project, The Pinnacle. He is also a founding and active member of the nationally recognized SAVE Partnership and the recipient of their first public sector Low Impact Development Award. Last year, Ron was the recipient of the Lakes to Locks Passage Partnership Award. This is in recognition of his outstanding intermunicipal cooperation, dedication to stewardship of the natural, cultural, recreational, and historic resources of the Lakes to Locks Passage. I know this is a prestigious award because it weighs about 20 pounds. Ron quite simply works to make his town in all of Warren County a better place to live, to work, and to visit. He is held in high esteem in regards to those who work closely with him. He leads from the front, he leads by example, and most important, he knows how to partner to get things done. We are indeed fortunate to have Ron as our chairman for a second term. It is now my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to honor my good friend and your next chairman, Bolton Supervisor Ron Conover.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge my duties as chairman of the Warren County Board of Supervisors to the best of my ability. Thank you, everyone, and welcome guests to our organizational meeting. I have a message to deliver, and as the newly elected chairman of the board, and I'd like to begin this message by thanking Kevin Garrity for his serving as our county administrator. I've asked Kevin to stay on as our acting administrator until a replacement is found, and he's agreed to continue in this role
for at least a little while longer, I believe is the way to phrase it. Kevin, I want you to know how extremely thankful we all are for your continued service. In 2017, we passed another on-time budget, staying under the state-imposed tax cap. Much of the credit goes to Frank Thomas, our budget officer, our budget team, and our department heads for their excellent work. Frank continues to do an exceptional job with the county budget, and we are most appreciative of his continued and excellent service. I have asked Supervisor Frank Thomas to continue as Warren County Budget Officer, and he's agreed for 2018. Frank, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I've asked Supervisor Matt Sokol to continue to chair the Warren County Finance Committee and to continue in his responsibilities as Deputy Chairman of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Matt, thank you. Today in Warren County, we find ourselves in a stable, if not slightly improving financial condition. Our bond rating continues to hold at AA+ stable. We are in the enviable position of having an adequate unassigned fund balance of almost $17.3 million. A reasonably healthy fund balance makes it possible to avoid short-term borrowing for cash flow purposes, and just as important, annual appropriations from this fund help us stay below the state-imposed property tax cap. As our Treasurer, Mike Swan, correctly reminds us, the fund balance is not inexhaustible, nor was it created overnight. It is a result of the fine work of our employees, department heads, one-time revenues, and overall conservative approach to expenditures and revenue projections by this board. This year, we will complete a $16 million court expansion project. I'm happy to report that the project is 3 months ahead of schedule and slightly under budget. The move of family court to their new facilities is scheduled to take place in early March. My compliments to former Supervisor and Facilities Chair Dan Gerard, as well as Supervisor Ron Montesi, the Facilities Committee, and our DPW staff for their very good efforts on this most important project. Much thank also to Mike Swan, Warren County Treasurer, for his efforts in timing and securing excellent financing for these projects, thereby lowering the budget impact for the court and the NSTEM project. The NSTEM project at SUNY is another major project that was completed ahead of schedule and under budget, which opened in 2017. I would also like to congratulate President Duffy and her team for the successful delivery of this project at SUNY Adirondack. If you haven't seen it, it's a wonderful new addition to our college. In 2017, the Warren County sales tax revenue is expected to be up about 2%. As you might expect, this year-over-year increase had a positive impact on both last year and this year's county budget. If the economy continues to improve in 2018 and we see additional growth in sales tax revenue, we can expect our 5-year projections to also improve. That said, I do not believe our present expense-to-revenue picture is sustainable, and the 5-year projections, while showing some improvement, continue to bear this out. As we did in 2017, we will need to find additional efficiencies and savings in 2018 if we are to continue to stay below the tax cap. As you all know, we have authorized advertising for a request for qualifications and proposals for contracting services and work at the county airport. Our goal has been to explore whether continued privatization of FBO functions and even expansion of services is the best way to proceed. While we have achieved savings at Floyd Bennett Airport by centralizing some airport operations with DPW, there is much more to be done. To me, the question is simple. Those operations we can do more efficiently by contracting with the private sector, we will certainly consider. Those functions we can do at less cost with our own staff must also be considered. To help lead us in the best place possible, I've asked Jack Diamond to chair our Facilities Committee. Jack comes to us with a wealth of experience and know-how, and I am confident he will provide the strong leadership we need to chair facilities. I continue to believe that by working together, we can build upon the success at the airport, and we can also achieve increased efficiencies and savings. In 2017, we settled with Siemens and secured outstanding state Medicaid reimbursements owed to Warren County for the Cogen facility. Most of the Medicaid funds are part of revenue to a reserve fund established by this board to pay legacy costs associated with Westmount, and as such, securing these funds was important to our operating budget. In 2018, I am hopeful that we will settle the remaining universal settlement associated with this facility. This settlement will provide the remaining revenue owed to Warren County by the state of New York, and also that will be part of that reserve fund. In 2007, we completed an employee evaluation program. Overall, I think it was a successful process both for us and our employees, and I expect this program will continue and even improve in 2018. In 2018, we have important appointments to make, not the least of which includes the County Administrator and Social Services Commissioner. I have asked Supervisor Garrity to chair the Personnel and SUNY ACC Committee. Having been Budget Officer for many years, along with his intimate understanding of our union contracts and county personnel, Kevin is particularly well-suited to chair this important committee. Last year, we negotiated and settled 3 union contracts. For 2018, we'll be negotiating 2 more. No small or simple matter. I would like to thank Kevin and our negotiating team for their excellent work in 2017, and I have every confidence that the same will be in 2018. In 2017, we moved to self-insurance for our health coverage. This decision resulted in the avoidance of a double-digit increase, possibly by as much as 13%, in our health insurance premiums. As our health insurance costs are well above $10 million, this cost avoidance was a significant benefit to our budget, and I might add, our employees who share in the cost of the provision of health insurance. Our hope is that this experience with self-insurance will continue in 2018, going into 2019, that we can keep future rate growth in health insurance costs at a more manageable level. Beginning in 2018, we must address the provision of emergency management services, especially in our most rural areas. The existing response systems are being stressed, and our EMS experts have advised us that the situation will only get worse. We know, based on our meetings and conversations, that this is also the case in other neighboring counties as well. It is vitally important that we act this year to ensure adequate, sustainable emergency response system for our residents and visitors. I have asked Supervisors Simpson, Leggett, Garrity, Dickinson, Hogan, Wild, and Sheriff York, along with Brian LaFleur, to spearhead this vitally important initiative. Legislation presently being advanced by Senator Little that would authorize counties to establish EMS districts on a county or part county basis is, in my opinion, a great step in the right direction. I would hope that in the coming months, this board will endorse this proposed legislation and actively lobby for its adoption. I have requested that Brian LaFleur assemble the relevant material for your review so that we can consider and take action on this. At the same time, we will explore how the State Shared Services Initiative can aid us in helping to pay for this initiative. I do not believe there is a more important decision in 2018 than establishing a county or part county platform for the long-term delivery of these essential services. This past year, we privately bid some of our highway work, which allowed us to do more roads. As we did in 2017, we will continue to solicit private paving bids for our county roads in this 2018. This year, we hope to improve our bid process by getting off to an earlier start. I would like to personally thank DPW Chairman Matt Simpson and the DPW Committee for shepherding this initiative in 17, and I have no doubt it will equally be successful in 2018 and will help us deliver more road improvement projects. I think it is fair to say that there is growing sentiment that the railroad corridor could provide larger economic benefit to the region as a recreational corridor than as exclusively a rail line. Continuing and growing concerns regarding rail storage facilities in the Adirondacks adds to this overall concern and further underscores the need for a plan of action. As you all know, the state of New York has joined with Warren and Essex counties in opposition to rail storage facilities in the Adirondacks, and I think the prudent thing at this stage is to begin to investigate whether a recreational trail should be created, by whom, at what cost, for which users, and how to pay for its creation and maintenance. I am therefore requesting that Matt Simpson and our DPW committee begin discussions with our corridor partners, including the state of New York, as to the best path forward. Initially, I'd like to see a grant application be submitted to the state of New York, the purpose of which will be to help fund a comprehensive review and to begin answering these and other questions and issues regarding the best long-term plan of uses for this major public asset. We need to do this in the best way possible so that we arrive at the best place possible. In 2018, we will need to develop a shared services plan for submittal to the state of New York. Our efforts thus far under our existing plan has resulted in significant savings. The 2018 plan will look to build upon this success, and I believe that if we all continue to work together, we can do even more to expand on these savings in 2018. In 2018, we will be expanding our partnership with the private sector through the Regional Chamber Convention and Visitors Bureau to improve our overall tourism program. We have an exceptional tourism program, but I'm excited about the opportunity to develop more events and to work more closely with our business community to better package our region. While occupancy tax revenues were up in 2017, we must continue to keep a watchful eye on occupancy tax spending. I know Supervisor Dickinson and Supervisor Merlino are very watchful of this program, and I would like to publicly thank them for their good work as chairs of the Tourism and Occupancy Tax Committees. I have asked that they continue to chair these important committees in 2018, and they have accepted. We are fortunate to have great employees. They, day in and day out, they do an exceptional job, many times under extremely difficult, even harsh conditions. Our employees have been very supportive of our acting county administrator, Mr. Garrity, our committee chairs, and I have every confidence this cooperation and support and dedicated service will continue in 2018. They are an exceptional group of dedicated individuals, and we are most appreciative of their work on behalf of the residents of Warren County. They are the unsung heroes that respond to emergencies, assist the less fortunate, help our neighbors stay in their homes, plow and maintain our roads and bridges, maintain our municipal buildings and grounds, and serve our residents in so many vital and important ways. On behalf of the Warren County Board of Supervisors, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our employees for their service and to wish all our employees a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. I have had the great privilege these past 8 years of being Bolton's representative to this board. 4 as deputy chairman, and for the past year as chairman of the board. As chairman, it is my job to help set the agenda, steward the process, ensure that it's open and fair, and that those wishing to speak are heard. This is the essence of our democratic system of government, and you can be assured that I will continue to perform these duties to the very best of my ability, so help me God. Thank you.
Amen.
All right. We'll have a reading of communications.
Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. November 2017 surcharge check in the amount of $3,792. Warren and Washington County IDA and CDC 2018 final budget. Letter from Matt McDonald, City of Glens Falls Ward 5 Supervisor, announcing his resignation from the board effective January 1, 2018. Letter from Jason Carasone, District Attorney, announcing that in the event he is unable to perform the duties of his position, Matthew D. Buren, Warren County First Assistant District Attorney, is designated to exercise the duties of the Warren County District Attorney. A letter from Jason Carasone, District Attorney, advising that all 7 of his department's assistant positions have been filled and providing names of each. Letter from the Adirondack Park Agency, advising that the APA has conditionally approved of a project described as a 2-lot subdivision of 40 acres involving wetlands located in a rural use area near Valley Road in the town of Thurman, for which permit 2017-0198 has been issued. Letter from the Warren and Washington County IDA announcing the resignation of Harold Taylor effective February 26, 2018. Email from Laura Coles requesting that she and fellow business owners be added to the agenda of the February 2018 board meeting to discuss items related to tourism in Warren County. And an email from Travis Whitehead stating that the county has failed to ensure that Iowa Pacific is meeting the terms of their contract with the county, and noticing that he holds the Board of Supervisors, and in particular the chairman, county attorney, and chair of the railroad committee responsible as counterparty to the contract.
Okay. Before we have a reading of resolutions, the Treasurer, Mike Swan, would like to address the Board without objection. Mr. Swan?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the new supervisors. My door is always open to you, and my phone is always there, so call me if you have any questions. We ran into a little difficulty last week, and that's why I'm here. For about 6 months, our IT department has been trying to install an update to our accounting software package that would allow us to run the W-2s and the 1099s by the end of this month. Last Wednesday, they informed Mike Colvin that we really probably couldn't do it ourselves, and that it's going to cost $6,000 for them to do it. So in order for us to get this done prior to the end of this month, that's why I'm here. We need to have the contract. It's not, well, it's a service agreement and authorization, not really a contract, because it's an extension of the existing contract, approved, and allow the chairman or Kevin Garrity, who is the acting administrator, to sign it. And I need $6,000 transferred from contingency to pay for this. Questions?
Mr. Dickinson?
We have to waive
First,
the rules?
but not just yet on that. Why don't you read the...
Okay. Proposed resolution numbers 1 through 22 are included in your folders. They were posted to the website, and the link was emailed out earlier in the week. A motion is needed to bring 1 through 22 to the floor.
Motion to bring Mr. Dickinson. Mr. Loeb on the second. Discussion?
I'd like a roll call vote on number 18.
Roll call on number 18. Any other roll calls? All right. Can we vote on the motion to bring to the floor then? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried?
Now, we would need a motion to waive the rules of the board requiring a resolution be presented in writing to entertain the resolution that Mr. Swan requested, and that would be for a new service agreement and a transfer from the contingent fund. So first we need a motion to waive the rules.
And that would be in the amount of
$6,000.
$6,000 even. Chair, I'll entertain a motion to waive the rules. Mr. Garrity, Mr. Thomas on the second. Thank you, Frank. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of waiving the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, that will be resolution number 23. We also need a motion to bring to the floor or to approve the service agreement and the contingent fund transfer in the amount of $6,000.
Mr. Simpson, Mr. Dickinson on the second. Any discussion? There being none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, that will be resolution number 24, and it will require a roll call vote because it's a transfer from the contingent fund.
Thank you very much.
24 will be a roll call. Does anybody wish to discuss any resolutions at this time? We don't have a privilege of the floor here. Yeah, the privilege of the floor is not listed, but without objection, I would like to provide for a privilege of the floor. Mr. Whitehead.
I believe it is listed as discussion and public comment on resolutions, where we are right now. But thank you anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate that the chair would like to see business conducted open and fair. Resolution 18 and 22, I question. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on 18 again. I believe the Warren County Attorney's position was anything but open and fair discussion. I reviewed it again after the executive session. Not even the name of the person was mentioned. It was just the selected candidate. And we never heard about any of that, who that might be, until the time of the vote. So that's disconcerting to me. But probably more important at this point in time is the continued expenditure of monies. The fact that the board has taken money from the rainy day fund for the last several years in order to make ends meet, and that the future budget shows, again, a decline as far out as we can look, and that's quite disconcerting. I've heard the treasurer say that within a couple of years he's going to be at the point where he's going to actually have to borrow money short-term to make payroll. That should be, disconcerting to all of you. Resolution 22 goes ahead and gives $330,000 to the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District. This has not gone through committee. This, like every other one today, comes from Chairman Conover. I think these things should be discussed, where the money is going, how it's being spent. $330,000 is not just a drop in the bucket. And it could make a difference at the end of the day. So I am discouraged. I do hope that we can certainly do better as far as being open and fair. And I hope that over the course of next year that I see some improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Alrighty, discussion on resolutions. Ms. Bramer.
Thank you for hearing me. I would like to make a comment on 18. I think that County Attorney Kane is doing a good job. I do agree with Mr. Whitehead that that process was not open, and I'm going to vote no on 18.
Any further discussion on 18? On 18?
Yeah, I'd also like to throw my 2 cents in on 18. I mentioned before, I believe that's the most important position in this county is the county attorney position. And 20-minute interviews, no second interviews, no reference checks, to me, is negligent on all our part. She may be the best candidate, but you cannot find out. I've interviewed over 300 people. I would never, ever make a decision on such an important position after 20-minute interviews, not bringing back top candidates to interview them a second time, and definitely not checking references. So I'm just appalled that we think that this is a smart decision. She may be the best candidate. I hope she is. But I sure as heck can't make that decision on 20 minutes. And I don't know how anybody in this room can. So if this is how we want to conduct business, this is why we get into trouble we get into. Decisions like this that are hasty, that are not well thought out, that we don't do our due diligence, this is what leads us to Siemens problems. This is what leads us to people buying Westmount that are totally should never have been put into the system. They should have never been considered. This is what I fight against. The fact that we have a system that thinks that we can make decisions on 20-minute interviews for our top position and think that's a good idea. And then we totally ignore data that shows Centers was a terrible company to buy Westmount and take care of our seniors. And look at what's happening now. 4 stars, now they're 1 star. But they tell us that's good. Being only 1 star is good. This appalls me. When are we going to start making common sense decisions? I look at everybody in this room, including myself. When are we going to start standing up and making good, solid, common sense decisions instead of just going along to go along to go along? When's that day going to happen? Well, obviously it's not happening today.
Anyone else wishing to discuss resolutions?
I would just like to make a short comment if I can.
Oh, sure.
Thank you
Peter,
very
of
much.
course.
First of all, thank you for recognizing a fellow supervisor, Attorney Claudia Bramer, okay? Thank you for not describing her comments as a diatribe, okay? I'm offended.
Right. Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to Mr. Travis, Mr. Whitehead's question about 22, could we have an explanation of the background of Resolution 22?
Mr. Chairman, did we close the discussion on 18?
No, I didn't close it on 18. Bill, that's my mistake. Bill, could you just hold for a moment? Mike?
Thank you very much, Mr.
Of
Chairman.
course.
I have to admit that these are some troubling comments, and being new to the board, I can't quite understand exactly why we're moving forward today. So as a result, I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. Any other further discussion on 18? Mr. Leggett?
Just for the record, so that people are not misinformed by the comments by the supervisor from Queensbury that there was only 20 minutes involved in the selection of the county attorney. She has worked for the county. She has demonstrated experience. She has demonstrated integrity. She has demonstrated knowledge and ability to do the work. So it has not just been 20 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Leggett. And further discussion on 18? Already, I'll close the discussion on 18. Discussion on other resolutions. Bill, you had a question
Yes,
regarding Resolution 22, was it?
Resolution 22 regarding the $330,000 for the soil and water. If we could have an explanation for the background of that bid. We did something to it.
It's our funding. Right. This is what was approved in the 2018 budget that we all approved. And the resolution basically authorizes payment to the treasurer of the Wayland County District in the amount of what was contracted for, anticipated to be contracted for within the budget. I believe it's something we do every year. I believe it's an annual, it's part of our budget. There are a number of organizations that are part and parcel of the budget, but that doesn't mean it's not open for discussion. Of course it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, just to elaborate a little more, Resolution 22 is for the Soil and Water Conservation District, of which I happen to be chairman of that board of directors. This money is part of the Soil and Water's budget, pays salaries for the people that work at Soil and Water. Soil and Water also gets probably close to $150,000 worth of grants each year that is applied to just about every town in this county, including we're helping the city of Glens Falls. This money, this resolution is just authorization to pay the money that was approved in the 2017 budget. Half of it's paid at the beginning of the year, and half is paid in, I believe, July.
Yes, it's
Mr.
Mr.
Beatty.
Beatty, yes. Does the Soil and Water District or committee follow the purchasing guidelines that are set out by the state and that the county is adhered to?
Yes.
They do?
Well, we have our procurement policy there.
Okay, because I'm a little fuzzy on that, and I think you are too. I'm not so sure they follow the same guidelines that we as the county does, but I'll double check that. But it's my understanding that... let me finish, please.
Sure.
It's my understanding that they need to be administered to the same county purchasing guidelines, and I'm not so sure that's happening. But if I'm wrong, I'd be glad to.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, I'm not sure that you're 100% accurate on that. Soil and Water is set up by statute. There's actually laws for the state of New York for soil and water districts. Each county has one. I think we are required to have a procurement policy, which we do have, but I'm not sure that it has to follow Warren County.
Okay. Since I was chairman of the Shared Services, I don't know if I will be going forward. Will I be, Mr. Chairman?
You will.
Okay. I will be glad to have Mrs. Butler come in and opine on this, seeing that she's our Director of Purchasing, and seeing and maybe she can shed some more light on this. And I'd be glad, I hope that all is occurring correctly. Thank you.
You bet. Mr. Thomas.
We work with Julie Pacino all the time whenever we're purchasing anything. So,
Julie Butler is our Director of Purchasing.
Butler.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say, as a town that does have a working relationship with Soil and Water, that has put out numerous RFPs on behalf of services that they've rendered under this cooperation with the county. And it's been done through a total open RFP process, reviewed by the county attorney in the past, everything that we've done. So.
All right, anyone else? Any further discussion on this resolution? There being none, discussion on other resolutions? Mr. Loeb, may I close the discussion on this resolution? Thank you. I'll close discussion on this resolution. I see Ms. Bramer's hand going up.
Thanks. I just wanted to say a thank you for reappointing me to the Community Action Board. I really enjoy that, and I want to say at this time, too, because it's so cold right now, people should, there are heat services available through Community Action and also through Warren County DSS. I just called this morning to make sure that process is running smoothly, so they can call temporary assistance if they need any help with that, or the Sheriff's Office in off hours.
All righty. Ready for voting?
Okay, Resolution 18, reappointing the Warren County Attorney. Mr. Leggett?
Aye.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
No.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Abstain?
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
That passes. And then Resolution 24, which will be authorizing a service agreement for the Treasurer's Office and a transfer from the contingent fund in the amount of $6,000. Mr. Leggett?
Aye.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Strauss?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Sokol?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes.
Ms. Collective on that.
A motion on the balance by Mr. Dickinson, Ms. Bramer on the second. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Listing of committees can be picked up after the meeting. The chair will intend a motion to adjourn. Mr. Simpson, Mr. Dickinson, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there privilege of the floor? Did I miss something? I don't see it. I don't see it.
We didn't do announcements either.
Where am I?
Yeah, we get, yeah, they stay right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't have this. If everyone could stay seated, please. We're not adjourned. I'm sorry. It's my mistake. Let me allow those in attendance the privilege of the floor.
Yeah, we get lunch now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Of course.
So it probably wasn't a real surprise about the vote today. The process is interesting. The term sausage making has come from the Post-Star in the past few months, and I think we probably saw an example of sausage making, or we didn't see the example of sausage making today, but it seemed like there were probably a lot of individual discussions going on. What was promised to who knows? Certain chairmanships, supports for pet projects. Are you going to get civic center funding? Airport, is that important to you? How about soil and water projects? Are they going to go to your town or not? Maybe a bridge or a county road that's bumped up on the list so that, you have your vote. This is not open and fair discussion, and there were certain people that obviously didn't get phone calls today, and they were disenfranchised. And their constituents are disenfranchised when that happens. I would like to see more discussion in session and less of the sausage making. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Great.
Chairman?
Announcements?
Thanks.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes. I wanted to thank our department heads and our employees. They've been doing an awesome job while we have our acting administrator especially. So just want to give them a shout out, and also that we move forward as diligently and as quickly as we can on the county administrators.
So,
I'm a full-time person.
any other announcements? Mr. Lowe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to say I'm glad to be back, everybody. And I want to give you a warm congratulations on your reelection as chairman.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Now I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Simpson, thank you for your patience. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.